What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thrift here. Today we are going to be talking about the Stalaktoss Glaive IOP class. I finally got it to level 50. This is my first level 50. I've been having an absolute blast with this class, and I really want everybody to try this class. I think this is one of the few classes that is in a great position for multiple builds. So I will be showing you my 9-card deck setup, but I will be referencing some additional builds that did inspire me to go 9-card, as well as some good 15-card deck options as well. I will explain further why I think you can go 9 or 15 without too much penalty. It's really just based on preference. So first things first, what does the Stalaktoss Glaive class do? It's passive. It confers dephasing on your hero until the end of your next turn if you have at least one opponent around them. And dephasing, it's going to reduce your attack and it's going to give you 1 extra MP, which is going to allow you to be able to run through enemies and deal half of your attack to them while you run through them. And then you can turn around and attack them. So you can deal a lot of damage if a lot of enemies are lined up or surrounding you. Now, through the use of level 15 and level 30 keystones, we can do a lot better here. The first keystone to get at level 15 is Stalaktoss Vigor. This is going to not penalize your attack when you are dephased, so you will not get that 50% attack reduction. And then at level 30, you get Stalaktoss Armor, and this states when you are dephased, you're going to get 50% of your attack as armor per opponent gone through. And this is how you're going to survive as a Stalaktoss, by getting your full attack benefit while dephasing, and then at level 30, you'll be receiving half of that attack as armor. Let's go over the spells list of my build first, and then we'll talk about some other options we got. So starting with the elemental cards, Reinvigorating Burn. This is a 50% drain to your hero for the turn if they are dephased. I highly recommend upgrading this with improved effect. This will add an additional 50% drain if you are dephased, making it 100% drain, meaning however much your attack is when you attack, you're going to heal that much. This is going to keep you alive for a lot of turns. The next spell is Trouble. This one pushes an enemy 1 cell if your hero is dephased, or you, I guess, pushes anything. Very important for lining things up. You will find in a lot of cases, there's just one enemy out of position, and if you could push him in line, you can get another dephase, which is going to give you more damage and more armor. And then Glory Clash. This is a very important card. It gives you an additional movement point to your hero for the turn, plus it gives you armor points if you are in melee range of any enemies. I'll explain why that's so important later, but movement points are important. If you have another MP and that can get you to dephase through another enemy, you're doing more damage, you're getting more armor. Onto the class cards. The first 2 cards allow you to activate dephase. So this first one, it's going to confer dephasing and give you plus 25% attack to your hero for the turn. The second one, Dephase Master, is going to inflict your attack on an opponent and confer dephasing. Or if you're already dephased, it's going to get you an extra movement point. The next card is Charge and Recharge. Your hero charges an inline character up to 3 cells and inflicts their attack on them and draw 1 spell. This is going to be really great for later in the fight. When you are dephased, you can charge into someone, so you're right in front of them, starting your dephased attack and movement. But this also inflicts your attack on them, which this is a high attack build, and you're going to draw a spell, so it's going to allow you to get into other cards. Race, it's a 1 AP card that gives you 2 movement points for the turn. This is fantastic to allow more dephase opportunities. Jump, you're going to teleport your hero up to 3 cells and inflict 25% of your attack on opponents adjacent to that cell. This is good for the damage, but more importantly, once again, to position yourself. The whole goal of this is to get you into a spot where you can get as much armor generation per turn. And lastly, Spiritual Crossing. Your hero goes down a line and triggers Spiritual Stream on each opponent you've gone through, which is going to inflict 25% of your hero's attack. So as you can see with this build, a lot of this build is getting dephase and then giving yourself movement points to try to activate as much dephase. This is primarily going to be based around your dephasing, your attack, and generating armor, plus lifesteal or drain when you need it to survive. Once this build gets going, it really snowballs out of control, and that is due to the equipment. So let's take a look at that. So first things first, we have the Orbital Ring. This ring is going to give you 5% chance of critical hits to your hero. It gets 1% attack to your hero as it levels up. And then through rune upgrades, you can get an additional attack to your hero per level, or percent per level. And then you can get an additional percent HP to your hero. This was recently changed. It used to be 3% attack to your hero per level, and this was reworked to HP to your hero. This is still a very important ring to a 9-card deck. It's one of the best rings that you can get. Secondly, the Injure Ring. This is a 1% attack to your hero ring, but you can further upgrade it to get another percent attack to your hero per level. So it's a 2% attack per level ring. You can get some other additional flat attack stats. The real benefit of this ring is that it has a start of fight bonus. Just keep this in mind. It's very important to get these percent attack to your hero per level bonuses, because that's going to scale a lot of your stats before the fight. And then start of fight bonuses are going to multiply any of those values once you get into the fight. Next, we have the Auric Ring. This is an attack per level ring. You can further get some HP to hero, but you can also get some good flat attack bonuses. But the big value here is that this is a 10% attack to your hero at the start of fight ring. And lastly, the Oscillation Ring. The Oscillation Ring says that when your hero has armor, you're going to get 25% bonus to your hero's attack. That is a huge amount of attack bonus if you have armor. Now, the problem with this deck, as I kind of mentioned, you're needing to generate a lot of armor, and you're not always going to be able to get a lot of armor. So how do you keep yourself alive and start attack turns with armor? Well, you have a couple options here, and the most important is that Glory Clash spell. Once again, if you're in melee range, this gives you armor points. So this is a really important card to have in hand, because if you do find a position where you did take too much damage and you don't have armor, you can very easily use this card, give yourself armor plus movement points for the turn. Because you haven't started your movement or attack, triggering all of your damage, you're going to get this armor. It's going to activate Oscillation Ring and give you the most attack possible so that you do more damage and you get more armor. So this is a very important card. One important thing about Stalaktoss armor is you will receive the armor from dephasing before the damage is calculated for dephasing, which will activate the Oscillation Ring's bonus damage. So in this case, if you don't have armor before the attack, the only thing you'll be missing out on is extra damage on the actual attack, but the dephase damage will still be there with the Oscillation, a 25% bonus attack. Now lastly, the Tongue Armband is pretty much a staple in any Stalaktoss build. This is going to give you 10% of your attack whenever you attack. So you're progressively going to get stronger as the fight goes on, which is so important because, once again, the more attack that you have, the more damage you're doing, but the more armor you're building up. So this is why I said this is a very snowbally build. The first few turns are the most difficult with this class, but once you get your attack building up through the use of Tongue Armband and Oscillation Ring, you're going to get into 300, even 400 attack. That means you're conferring almost 200 plus armor per enemy you go through. This is great because you can also get upgrades in 2% attack to your hero. See, this is a 2% attack per level armband. So in total, you're going to be getting 8% attack per level if you upgrade all of those. That's a lot of attack you're getting per level. Now on to the companions. I find that there are a few staples, but there is room for flexibility here. By far, the most important companion you're going to get is Delta. Yes, the birds are always the word in this game. Delta is so important because you can upgrade it to confer shield onto your hero. This is pivotal because, like I said, the first few turns are the hardest. So you want to put yourself in a position where you're only taking an attack or two, but you're not going to be generating a lot of armor if they're not lined up yet. So a lot of turns, especially turn 1 or turn 2, you're going to find yourself using cards to get into position, but you're not going to have a lot of armor. You can very easily summon Delta, give your character a shield, which will eat one of those attacks. And then Delta will also take an attack because it is a companion and AI loves to focus companions. So this effectively reduces the amount of attacks you're going to take by 2. Most of the time, you should be able to survive that first turn. If you can dephase once and get some armor, you should be able to get through that turn with armor still, which means that you're going to have the full benefit of Oscillation Ring. Now, depending on your situation, you may not have to go Delta because you do have Glory Clash in hand. So you know that you can confer armor on that very important turn 2 or turn 3 where you need to be stacking a lot of armor with the build. But if you don't, this is a really good option. It's very easy to get into Delta because a lot of cards are going to give you Ether Gauge, Dephased Glaive, Dephased Master, Spiritual Crossing. These are all cards you're going to be using to get into position and then confer dephasing turn 1. And you can use any combination of these all together. You can cross in and then confer dephasing with either of the cards to then go ahead and attack. So it's very easy to get into Delta with a 9-card deck. And like I said, if not, you're in a 9-card deck, you're most likely going to have Glory Clash in hand for turn 2. Other than that, I really like Little Thorn in this build. It seems like every build I play, I use Little Thorn. I just think it's such an important card. It's going to discard your hand and draw 3 spells, and then you can further improve Little Thorn by reducing the action point cost of those spells, which is really awesome in this build because when you draw 3 cards, you have a lot of cards that are 3 cost, 2 cost, or even 1 cost. So with that new draw of hands, you might just be able to use Race for free, regardless of how much AP you have, or you might be able to dash away or into the fight, or jump to a better position, or push things in line for only 1 AP. So Little Thorn really helps this deck later on when you're just trying to finish the fight. Thirdly, you do have Tika here. We do run 1 card that can give you Air Gauge, you can use Tika. Tika is nothing more than just another body. I would say I would only use Tika if you can get the draw 1 spell bonus for the additional effect using companion runes. It's just another draw. I did want to take a minute just to explain some alternative gear options for the class. There is a bunch of gear that you could run in replacement of some of these gears. I do think that the Orbital Ring is probably the most replaceable item now that it is a 2 attack and 1 HP per hero ring. There's a lot of good legendaries and cosmic rings that you could use. Of course, it's going to require more investment, but later on down the road, it's going to be something to consider. The first ring, surprising as it is, I think Death Orb is a good option. It's a 1 HP, 1 attack ring. However, you can't upgrade this to be a 2 attack and 1 health ring, so it's the same stats as Orbital. And with that, you're going to get Nutris. And Nutris is a creature that can come out later in the fight. And then also you can upgrade that this right here, that when you summon Nutris, it confers your hero's attack as armor. You are going to bring out something that has 300 plus health, and it's going to probably have 300 plus armor, so it's going to be very tanky. This wouldn't be my first suggestion. However, it is a fun, silly idea to bring out a companion later on. I think more recommended builds are going to say either Scarifier. This is going to heal 50% of your attack. The heal from Scarifier will scale with the attack bonuses you're receiving in fight. So as you continue to attack with Tongue Armband, that heal is going to progressively get larger. It is very likely you'll be receiving 150 plus health per turn as you get further into the fight. So this is a consistent way of healing. The only drawback is it's a 1% attack, 1% health ring. So you're getting less attack stat, but you're getting that consistent heal at the beginning of each turn. So with that, one ring that's actually surprising and interesting, you could go Soul Ring. Now Soul Ring is health and attack, but you can improve it to get another % attack to your hero. So it's a 2 attack, 1 health % per level ring. It's going to give you the Killing Blow that's going to inflict 25 of your attack to all opponents. So by the time you keep scaling up, you're going to be doing 75, maybe even 100 damage to all of the opponents. It's very easy to single out an enemy with this build since you are dephasing and then turning around to attack them. So Soul Ring could trigger pretty early in your fights. What's nice about it too, it's going to give you that critical hits to your hero. Crits are really important to this build and you're not going to be losing that. The Orbital Ring has critical hits to your hero and you can equipment upgrade that for the Soul Ring. So you're not really losing any stats on Soul Ring. But of course, it's an infinite level ring. It's going to take 50 copies to get the level 50. But if you really like Stalaktoss, this is something I would 100% look into later on. This is something I will probably invest in over time with Stalaktoss, is trying to build into Soul Ring to replace. I think this is a perfect ring to replace the Orbital Ring now that we got that HP to your hero change. So this ring isn't as good as anything else. So there is better options. And one final thing, I know a lot of people are going to ask, well, why aren't you using the Hoity armband? This is giving you 25% of your attack as armor. You can upgrade it to be a further 10%. attack as armor, so it would be total of 35% attack as armor. One really interesting interaction about the tongue armband is that when you dephase, you actually perform your attack before dephase triggers. So when you attack, you're getting that percent attack to your hero. That's going to give you attack, and then that bonus attack actually triggers on the dephase. Now, I had mentioned that Stalaktoss is in a really great position for both 9 and 15 card decks. A lot of the reason is due to the Orbital Ring change. Recently, this was changed to give 1% HP to your hero. This used to provide attack, which meant that this was a 3% attack ring. And since at 9 card decks, you don't have a lot of attack options, it was a staple. With 15 card decks, you have many more options for equipment, and you may have not been using Orbital Ring. There might have been a better option. With this change, 15 card decks don't need to use Orbital Ring anymore. So 15 cards actually get just about the same stats as a 9 card deck with some better start of fight bonuses. So an example of a 15 card deck equipment setup would be using the Horrific Ring. This is going to give you 40% drain, meaning, you know, of course you have Reinvigorating Burn in the build, but you're going to have drain all the time. So you're going to keep yourself topped up if you ever get hit. But through upgrades, you can get another percent attack to your hero per level, plus some other flat ones. You can use the Inflection Ring, which this one is going to give you 30% attack to your hero start a fight. But this can also be upgraded to give you 2% attack to your hero per level. You can run the Oscillation Ring, same stats, and it's going to give you that 25%, you know, during the fight. And then you run Injuring for the same reason. It's a start of fight bonus. So with this build with Tongue Armband, you're actually at 8% stat per level through your gear, just like the 9 card deck now. And then you're going to have 30% at the start of fight, 20% at the start of fight. And if you have armor, you're going to get another 25%. So that is 75% bonus attack based on whatever this starting number is here. And since this is scaling very similar to a 9 card deck, you're going to be at level 50 gear over 200 plus attack, and then you're getting 75% more if you do have armor. So this build, cards for this build, I'd have to reset. However, I can show you what you would use. So I'm just going to go through the same cards you have from the 9 card deck. Glory Clash for movement and armor, Reinvigorating Bird for drain. You have the Trouble for pushing enemies, Jump to move around, Spiritual Crossing to position yourself, Dephase Glaive and Dephase Master to dephase, and the Charge and Recharge to attack and draw and move. And then the new cards you would be using is Telluric Charge. This is going to charge your character, and it's going to steal 1 movement point for the turn. So it's another way to get into position and have extra MP for the turn to dephase more. Frozen Cross Tie. This is going to move your hero through 3 cells. What's really nice about this ability, it doesn't have to hit an enemy. So you can actually use this at the start of the game, at the start of the fight, to move into position. You can also dash through an enemy to get into better positions to start your dephased attacks. Oops, Race is another card that you're already using, so you already have that one. You'll be using Algarad to draw 2 spells. If you have a really bad starting hand and you can't dephase, it's always nice to just draw extra spells. The other cards you would be using, you would use Iop Curios. This is going to confer shield on your hero and draw 2 spells. This could be nice later in the fight where you're already dephasing a lot. Just getting an extra shield is really valuable. The other card you would use is All Stalaktoss. This is going to give all of your characters dephase and 1 movement point for the turn. This actually gives you a 3rd option to dephase alongside Dephase Master and Glaive. So with the 15 card deck, you have a 1 in 5 shot of getting a dephase card in your starting hand, and you start with 5 cards. So you have a pretty high probability of getting at least 1 way to dephase at the beginning of the fight. And then lastly, you do have to run a 15th and final card. You have a few options here. You could go into Radiation. This is going to give you extra attack until the end of turn, and then for each enemy in melee range, 10% attack extra. You could go into other options with just regular cards. One option could be Intimidation, to have another card to push enemies into line. And this one doesn't require you to be dephased. So you could use this offensively, but also defensively. For the first turn, you could push something away and position yourself a little bit better for that second turn. Try to eliminate as many attacks as possible. So this would be another good option that you could use. Although a 15 card deck may be more inconsistent, it does open up opportunities to have a lot of good class cards being able to just give yourself shield, being able to give yourself more attack for the end of turn. You have a lot of options that are all going to be pretty darn valuable. Movement is the name of the game, and with a 15 card deck, you are giving yourself a lot more movement options. And man, having 40% drain, having a 30% attack to your hero at the start of fight ring, these two rings are so important to any attack build, and you might find value in always having drain available. As for companions, it's going to be the same. So the build is more or less the same. The only difference comes down to your equipment. Now, with that said, I am going to be linking some resources down below. When I was first starting Stalaktoss, I was having a lot of trouble with it, and I used a video as a reference just to how to play the class. Once you see someone playing it, it makes a whole lot more sense in how you should be operating your class. So I'm going to leave those below because I do think it's important to just watch good Stalaktoss gameplay so that you have a better idea of what you're supposed to be doing. Lastly, I am going to show some gameplay. This isn't going to be perfect, but just to get the idea of how you can get used to the thought process behind a Stalaktoss play. So with my starting hand, I don't want to just run in and take a whole bunch of damage. I can of course click and hover and see where everybody can attack me. I want to get myself into a position where I can dephase and do damage. So I'm looking at my starting hand to see what I can do here, and I see a lot of options. First off, I see that I can dephase. That's the first and most important thing, to make sure I can get into dephase. And then I have a lot of options here. I can give myself extra movement points to do more dephasing. I can jump to a cell and then begin my dephase turn, or I can stream through the whole line and just go to a corner and start my dephase turn. So I have a really good starting hand. So all I'm going to do in this position, I'm just going to move myself so I don't get hit. Now spells are still going to hit me, but I'm not going to take as much damage as I would originally expect. Any damage I take right now can very easily be recovered through drain, reinvigorating burn. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to get myself into a position to do the most damage, but also keep myself in an area where I'm not going to take a lot of hits. So what I'm going to do here is try to figure out how can I do the most damage to everybody while dephasing. And most likely, what I'm going to do here is I will dephase this enemy. I'm going to run over to here. So I'm going to jump. And since I have 4 movement points, I'm going to go through and then strike back at this guy. Now I'm going to take a bit of damage, and I don't expect to actually survive with armor, because 1, most likely 2, 3, maybe 4 are going to hit me depending on how they run. However, I do have reinvigorating burn. I can give myself a lot of movement points, and I can help line people up to do damage. So once again, I'm looking at a position where I want to make sure I end my turn away from people. My goal here would actually be able to either end in this cell or over here, so that a lot of these guys can't come and attack me. What I'll do here is just kind of count out my turn. I want to finish him off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is my finishing cell. So I'm going to push him into position so I can dephase through and attack him. I'll give myself 2 MP. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I was able to push, get another dephase, and we're going to take a few people out this turn. So I'm going to lose dephase because nothing's around me, but that's okay. That's why we run those 2 cards to confer dephase. So for 3 AP next turn, I can very easily get back into dephase. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to trigger dephasing. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want to 1, 2, 3, 4. Trying to figure out my position here. I'm going to basically attack anything for death here. So what could I do? 1, 2, 3, 4 attack. We could do that. Basically, I can't attack and dephase through him, so it's kind of useless since I'm going to do too much damage. So I'm just trying to figure out how exactly I want to play this out. I can dephase once and attack, what I also could do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the MP here isn't going to help me much. So really, I think I'm just going to go like that. I'll deface through and attack her, and I'll just take the attack. I mean, we're pretty much done at this point with this fight. If you really wanted to, I could even drop this, give myself a shield. Now I know I'm very safe for this next turn. But you can see the first turn or first or second turn are the most important, trying to get yourself into a position where you're not taking lots of attacks. But once you take out 1 or 2 enemies, you're generating so much armor. You have so many ways to do damage, heal yourself, shield yourself. It's not much of an issue after that, the first couple turns. So once again, counting my steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to have a 5th movement so I can dephase and attack. I have a way to get in a movement point right here, so we'll just use that on her. And now I can dephase twice and attack. And that's the fight. I do hope this was informative. I hope you enjoy the Stalaktoss class. If you have any recommendations to anybody about deck lists or equipment lists, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this class. I've been having an absolute blast. It's, I think, one of the better classes to play. I don't think it's broken or overpowered. I do think that it can be very strong when played correctly. So I think it's in a great position, and I do recommend anybody to give it a shot and even consider maining it. So with all that said, I really appreciate all the love and support, and I'll see you all in the next video real soon.